What is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden J here. What's going on, everyone? I hope we are all doing extremely well. I am most certainly doing well today. Audio sounds pretty crystal clear on my end. But yeah, what's going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden J here. We are here live today talking about our New York Mets. So hope everyone is doing extremely well. Before we get started, everyone, please smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, subscribe, tell your friends about this channel. Obviously, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, it could be about the Mets, the Phillies, the Red Sox, the Padres, MLB related. I know it says Mets talk, but it's really baseball talk. So feel free, drop whatever you got in the comment section below. For the off season, I don't usually stream a whole lot. I do a lot of Q&A based style streams. So like you guys are spamming the comment section, keep doing that. I love it. That's really what we're going to be going about for the future. So yeah, I guess hope everyone is doing extremely well. I hope everyone had a good New Year, good holiday, all of that great stuff. I know a lot of people are going back to school, work, as you could tell I'm back at school for the second semester. So that I guess has its pros and cons, however you want to look at it. So yeah, definitely all that great stuff. So yeah, LFGM, and let's stop wasting any more time and let's get into some of your guys' comments, questions, concerns, anything really related to the Mets or just Major League Baseball. Feel free to drop it in the comment section below. So what is going on? What is going on, everyone? Jack in the Box, Cal, Steven, Baseball Media, Geo, Eric, he says, hey, Hayden, how's it going? Counting down the days till spring training? Absolutely, man. I completely agree with you. I am, living in Florida. I'm pretty excited. I will be going to spring training. Obviously, I go to school in DeLance. That's in university, which is in Central Florida, but I live in South Florida. So I'm definitely going to be going, hopefully, to the Mets opening day spring training at Port St. Lucie, potentially with the 7 line. So definitely keep that in the back of your mind. If you're there, maybe we'll run into each other. But what's going on, everyone? Alex, Seth, we will get into that. Yes, absolutely. Connor, Jack in the Box, Mike Spy, Michael, what's going on? What's new in Metsland? We're definitely going to get into that. Sean, Timothy, BJ Santana, I appreciate you, bro. Mets Nation, Cal, what's going on? Cal, our first major comment of the day says goal this month are to cut Darren Ruff, acquire another bullpen arm, and get the Correa deal done. Yeah, no, man, I agree with you 100%. I think right now, most realistically, those are 3 realistic options. I did make a video in regards to January being here. What should the New York Mets do now? And obviously, a lot of the offseason moves have kind of been made for the Mets and really just all MLB baseball. I said it last stream, and I've been saying it a lot, and I'll say it again. Free agency flew by. I mean, the fact is all of the big free agents signed before the holiday break. So why is that? Could be with last year's CBA, urgency, we don't have a lockout, so maybe teams are just more ambitious. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, right now, in terms of free agency, I mean, you're dealing with guys like Adam Duvall and Trey Mancini, and those are really the best guys you got. In terms of obviously the offensive production guys on the free agent market. But right now, I think getting another bullpen arm is the most realistic thing. I mean, bullpen, that's that one position that you don't really have to put a lot of money in. You don't have to invest a lot. It's a low risk position. It's not like going after a shortstop or, a number 2 starting pitcher or a DH. Bullpen is just an easy position. That's kind of like the one position in baseball where you don't have to invest a lot in. You can go with internal guys, domestic, foreign, however you want. So yeah, right now I don't disagree with you. I think another bullpen arm could be nice. One guy I've been a big advocate on is a guy, Andrew Chafin. He's a nice lefty guy. Obviously, the Mets definitely need to stack that bullpen with lefties. We don't want any sort of issue with last season. We saw last year, they were relying on Dolly Rodriguez to be our lefty, going out in there in the 7th and 8th inning in a 1-run ball game and just completely would blow it away. And right now, I want this team to be filled with lefties. Is David Peterson going to be in a bullpen role? Potentially. I prefer him not. Obviously, I've established that David Peterson is a guy who, in my opinion, I think would benefit starting rather than going to the bullpen, considering his walk issue. And obviously, being in the bullpen, you get less innings pitched. There's less room for error if he's going to walk guys and, have, his complexities with finding the strike zone. So, I mean, as of right now, I would say Andrew Chafin is definitely the number 1 bullpen guy that I would go after. on the free agent market. Cutting Darren Ruff, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say cut him. I would most realistically say you could probably package and get something out of him. You could put him in some trade, and I guarantee you, he has some value to some team. It's just not the New York Mets. So I would disagree when it comes to cutting him. I would prefer not to cut him. I think you can definitely get something out of him. And then obviously getting the Carlos Correa deal done, that is something that is big. And we'll get through a couple more comments, and then we'll kind of talk about the whole Correa, the Correa ordeal. Trey, what's going on? Trey says, I love Cohen, what he's doing for my Mets and the borough of Queens. Yeah, absolutely, man. Steve Cohen has done phenomenal for this New York Mets ball club. BJ Santana says, what team do you hate the most? I mean, I guess hate is a strong word, but if I'm going to go out there and say, like, what team do I like to make fun of the most, or what team do I want the Mets to beat the most? I mean, I guess it'd be a pretty similar response to all Mets fans, probably a Yankees or Phillies, I would say. Kobe, what's going on? Karen, Kobe, what's happening? Mets Nation says, Hayden, do you think the Mets should sign Jurickson Profar? Yeah, Profar would be an interesting pick. Let's take a little look-see at Jurickson Profar, some of his, I guess, just basic information. I would say right now he's probably the biggest outfield free agent on the market right now. I mean, you have a couple trade candidates, but in terms of free agent guys, so I mean, looking at Profar, obviously we'll go to his spot page. That'll give us a little bit more of a realistic intel, a little bit more. Baseball Savant is it's definitely a great website. It's just won't load. Here we are. So yeah, I mean, Jurickson Profar. Of course, it's not going to work. All right. Well, looks like we're not doing it on that. So Jurickson Profar, let's go to his baseball reference page. So coming into last season, Profar, 111 OPS plus, OPS is 723, slugging at 391, OBP at 331, average of 243, 15 homers, 58 ribbies, 5 stolen bases. So yeah, I mean, listen, he's not, obviously there's a big gap from, a guy like Judge and Nimmo all the way to Profar. Being completely honest, I don't really think you would need a Jurickson Profar. Yes, I get it. Right now, your outfield does consist of Canna, Nimmo, and Marte. You have a couple backups. Obviously, McNeil is more than capable of playing left field. I mean, you recently just signed Tim LeCastro, which, okay move. I mean, not really much to look for. And, LeCastro, he's great for stealing bases. I mean, I think, past 3 years, besides last season, he was in the 100th percentile in sprint speed. Last year, he was in the 99th percentile in sprint speed. So, LeCastro is going to be more this pitch runner, ninth inning defensive adjustment guy, for a guy that's going to hit in between the gap. He could locate the ball, little stuff like that. So you're not going to rely on him a whole lot. But in terms of Profar, yeah, he could be this potential fourth outfielder. However, well, it'll probably be a fifth outfielder, if anything. You put him in left field, potentially. I don't really see a world where the Mets do feed into Profar. Goes to the opposite field. Okay, that's nice. He can give you some decent pop in his at-bat. Okay. But right now, I just think with where this Mets roster is right now, I don't really think there's much of a need. If there was anyone, I would have much rather them go after a Conforto or, an Adam Duvall. Instead of a Jurickson Profar. I mean, Profar could be that, little small spark player, it's definitely a concern. The Mets, shortage of outfield, and that's kind of been a concern for them the last 2 or 3 years. In the farm system, they have a huge shortage of outfielders, and really at the MLB level too. I think Khalil Lee, I mean, his time with the Mets is kind of seeming to, get smaller and smaller each, year and week, month. So right now, Profar, yeah, I mean, if you were to look at him on this smaller, 2-year deal, I think I could realistically see an option. However, I don't think he's going to want to take a 2-year deal. So I guess that's kind of that's where you're going to get the dilemma. Would I be in favor of it? I think there's other candidates out there, but if it really came down to it where the Mets are really concerned with the shortage of outfielders, then okay, yeah, maybe you can explore a possibility. All right, so yeah, let's talk about the little Carlos Correa shenanigans. So Cal says, do you think the Carlos Correa deal will get done? And then obviously our friend Michael just commented also. So We'll just look at those two. So when it comes to Carlos Correa, it's in a very interesting spot. Obviously, I don't really need to explain what happened with Correa. We all know how it went down. The issue that kind of was stuck in my head was Correa walked away from the Giants because they halted the contract, halted everything because they found something in his physical. Obviously, I get it, HIPAA. I'm more than cognizant with that stuff. I get it. The Giants were not able to share with other teams what the deal was with Correa. But the Mets knew that the Giants saw something. Did the Mets just think that that injury would magically disappear in 24 hours or that they wouldn't see it? I don't know. When the Mets signed him, I was like, oh, that's great. But what's this physical thing? I know there were some rumors about his leg, his hamstring, his Achilles. Okay, there were rumors about it, but it wasn't concrete. Now we obviously know what it is. So, I don't know. That was just something that kind of popped to my head. Contract-wise, I think he's deserving of that. Injury aside, playing performance, he's deserving of it. Correa has been a consistent player for his whole career besides 2020, but nobody cares about that year. And he offers everything. He's one of the best defenders in the game. Great clubhouse guy. He's an all-elite player. He provides popping his at-bat, defense, speed. He does everything. Sprays the ball all over the field. He's theoretically a 5'2" athlete. You put him next to Lindor. I have no issue with him playing third base. I think he has the accuracy. I think he has the range, and he has the arm to play third base. I feel, he maybe has a little bit more athleticism to play shortstop, but unfortunately, that's kind of the risk you have to take when, you put a shortstop at third base. I mean, we saw it with, last year, with the whole Baez wanting to play second base, but, that's all water under the bridge right now. So when it comes down to it, it really is a phenomenal deal. Last that we heard was that Steve Cohen was trying to get, consent from the MLB and the MLB Players Association, Players Union, about these unique special clauses. And I guess what does that detail of? It could potentially detail some contract reconstruction. So maybe right now Correa goes on with this deal, but maybe 3 years down the line, that injury starts to get with him. The Mets, right now in MLB, contract reconstruction is not a thing. So maybe in 2-3 years down the line, if that becomes an issue, the Mets, Epler, whoever, and Correa and Boris, they could reconstruct the contract. Whether it's less years, lower AAV, mutual option, team option, player option, whatever. What other unique clauses could there be? Who knows? That's kind of what I guess Cohen and Epler are thinking of. That's just kind of the one I am imagining. But I think most realistically that is a fair one. So yeah, I mean, right now the Correa deal, it's very frustrating. It certainly is. I mean, I think everyone wants this deal to get done. If you are to ask me, I think it will get done. I just think right now you look at a lot of the contenders that were in on Correa. I don't see him going back to the Twins. I think the Yankees and Dodgers are out of it for obvious reasons. Padres are, obviously not really in the hunt. Neither are the Phillies. Not really the Braves. You have Austin Riley, and I mean, yeah, I guess shortstop they would need one. But yeah, right now, I mean, right now, from what we've been hearing is that the Mets and Carlos Correa are still favorites. So yeah, I guess right now we're just gonna have to wait and see, how the Mets and how Steve Cohen and Billy Epler are gonna handle this. I think, in my opinion, I think this deal will get done. When will it get done? I think it'll be maybe a week or two. I think it'll be a long, stressful process, but I think it'll get done. And I think they will include some unique special clauses in this contract. And yeah, I mean, I really do have faith that this will be a deal that gets done. I have confidence that this is a deal that will be finalized. It will get done. It's frustrating. I get it. I think this was kind of a thing that could have easily have been avoidable. But I mean, we saw it all last offseason, how frustrating MLB can get sometimes. So, sometimes that's just that's sports for you. Alex says, which MLB team has had the best offseason so far? So I guess just to spit a couple team names out there. I mean, there's been a lot of teams who have had some great offseasons so far. I mean, obviously, our New York Mets have had a good offseason. I would say the Yankees, obviously, Aaron Judge, Carlos Rodon, Anthony Rizzo coming back. Yeah, obviously re-signing Judge, re-signing Rizzo, and then signing Rodon. Those were great moves there. Yankees probably will do some more. Obviously, our Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies have had a pretty good offseason. Trey Turner, Taijuan Walker, a couple of bullpen arms. Definitely good for them there. Let's see. We'll say the San Francisco Giants, as much as, the LOL with Judge and Correa that they may have had, they have actually had a pretty good offseason. You look at it right now. They re-signed Jock Peterson. Okay. So that was obviously one, I guess, guy that was on the offseason market. I'm just trying to pull up off-season signings. I'm just trying to pull up who they kind of brought in. Okay, so here we go. So obviously, go to December. So yeah, obviously they did re-sign Jock Peterson. That was a good move. You brought in Sean Manaea. You brought in Ross Stripling. You brought in Taylor Rogers. You signed Mitch Haniger and Michael Conforto. Not a horrible offseason, I will say, for the least. Yeah, Correa, Judge, that would have been great, and I understand they had their lull moments with that, but they had a pretty decent offseason. Arizona Diamondbacks are a team also that have had a sneaky under the radar offseason. You could say Kyle Lewis. That was a definitely sneaky and underrated and not talked about move that did occur. Obviously, Evan Longoria, good veteran, young team. Can't always hurt with that. A couple of bullpen guys, Castro, Miguel, whoever. Who else did they obtain? Yeah, pretty decent. I would say the Cubs also. The Cubs have had a pretty good offseason. Obviously, Cody Bellinger. With Bellinger, that's a story for another day, but you got him. Obviously, Dansby Swanson, Jameson Taillon. So Cubs have also had an interesting offseason. BJ Santana says Darren Ruff is the Joey Gallo of the New York Mets. Yeah, I would say right now, if anything, I'd say Gallo probably provides more. And yeah, I don't know what it is. Gallo, with how he was on the Yankees, and then he went to LA and he just raked. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was just a guy who just couldn't handle the New York pressure, the crowd. He just did better in LA. Could have been the hitting instructor, his coaching there. Who knows? But right now, I think when it comes down to Darren Ruff, he's not providing you with really much. And I don't see much of a reason for the Mets to keep him. When the Mets got him, and it's upset what you gave up for him. You traded up J.D. Davis. Heck, J.D. Davis had more of an impact. You saw he went to San Francisco, and he did great. Not great, but he did pretty substantially good. Obviously, much better than what Darren Ruff did. So yeah, right now, I don't really know what the full-on plan for Darren Ruff is. I would say that they're probably going to trade him. Don't cut him. Don't release him. Get something out of him. I'm sure there'd be some team out there that would be willing to, you could put him in a little trade mix, or even if it's for minor league prospects, there's going to be a team out there that's willing to do something or give you something. I would hate for them to just kind of, release him or, get something out of him. Heck, you got something out of James McCann. Do something like that, even if you get a player to be named later. And I don't even know if the Mets got the player to be named later back for the James McCann trade. I don't know if anyone is, if anyone could check that up. But yeah, let me know about that. Kobe says, should David Peterson and Tyler McGill be in the rotation? Yeah, this is a question that I've been asked a lot on this channel. As of right now, I would say by default, they probably would not really even be in the rotation, both of them. I would say they'd be a 6 and 7 starter. Right now you have Verlander, Scherzer. Who's your ace? That's a battle for spring training. Probably Scherzer. Yeah, okay, Scherzer or Verlander. So they'll that's your 1 and 2. Whatever the order is, who cares? Probably go kind of Kodai Senga number 3. I'm kind of curious to see what MLB has them labeled as. MLB pitching rotation. Let's see. You probably have Kodai Senga 3. Jose Quintana 4. Carlos Carrasco 5. Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna think, and that's what they're telling me a lot. And then you have Peterson as your 6, and Peterson, McGill as your 6 and 7. I'm guessing they prefer McGill in the bullpen because, like I said, with Peterson's command issues. So, yeah, I guess that kind of makes the most sense in terms of your rotation. So I would really say I think Peterson deserves a little bit more. This is the thing with McGill. I think it would be he's an easy breakout candidate. I mean, we saw he never played a full season, but we saw what he did in half of 2021, and then the small parts he played in the beginning of 2022. He was phenomenal. It's going to be hard for him to be a huge contributor to this team when he's only pitching 1-2 innings every other day, or every other 2 days, or every other 3 days. It's my only concern for him. He's an easy breakout candidate for anyone to say who a breakout candidate for 2023. Easily go with Tyler McGill. Just in the bullpen, it's going to be harder to make a case. Peterson, on the other hand, I mean, he's been in the Mets a little bit longer. Obviously, debuted 2020, carry through the last 3 years just about. Like I said, he's a lefty. I do value having lefties in the rotation. There's teams out there who cannot hit left-handed pitching. The 2021 Mets, and a little bit last year to the extent, but that got much better. So, like I said, there's teams out there that are going to struggle with that, and you need to take advantage of that. So yeah, right now, I think Peterson makes more of a case to join the rotation. I think he's a guy who's definitely working on his command. I get it right now. I've talked about it in the bullpen. You can't have that, walking command struggling type guy because that's just bad news. And I understand that. So maybe does that kind of make him, an exception? Yeah, probably. Jose, what's going on? Trace says, according to a club source, Correa and the Mets continue to progress toward a deal, but time frame is not imminent. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it could be a week, 2 weeks, who knows. Timothy says, will the Mets trade Carrasco, Escobar, Vientos, Williams, Morbido, no who that is, and Tidwell to the Tigers for Meadows and Jackson Jobe? Yeah, my concern with Austin Meadows is just how, I hate to say crappy he was, but he was pretty bad last year. Could that be because the injury? Kind of hard for there to be a power hitter at Comerica Park. Yeah, though those are some reasons, but right now, that's not really the trade I would make. Jose says, I think the Mets should give Mauricio a shot at DH. The kid could hit. I'll tell you, Jose, Ronnie Mauricio is, in my opinion, I think the most underrated Mets prospect in their farm system. During winter ball or the Dominican, whatever that league is, I was watching a lot of highlights, and this dude hits them. I mean, this is a dude who is a raw power machine. I mean, this is a guy who's capable of being, a 30, 40 home run hitting guy. I mean, he's capable of being a Pete Alonso or Yordan Alvarez or Kyle Schwarber power wise. I mean, he's to an extent he has pretty good patience at the plate, great eye coordination, goes to the opposite way a little bit, line drive hitter, but he hits for some insane power. I guess kind of the issue with Ronnie Mauricio is where you're going to put him at the defense. And I know you said DH, right? But defensively, could you get much out of him? He's a shortstop. Obviously, the Mets have Lindor, the shortstop position for the next 10 years, and potentially you're going to have Correa at third. And obviously you have a ton of other guys, Beatty for the third base position, Guillorme as a backup, etc. So, where would you put Mauricio? I know he's young, so potentially I really would have no issue with Mauricio working to become an outfielder. I think that is one thing that the Mets have never really, I think they've looked into it. I will say that's something that the Mets have probably looked into it, but I would love for Ronnie Mauricio to go to the outfield. I think he has the speed, he has the athleticism. He's young, he's not like he's like, 34, and learning a new position. He's illiterate to the position. No, he's capable of going to that position. So yeah, I really would like to see Mauricio become an outfielder. I think that would be a really good spot for him potentially. When it comes down to, I guess, giving him a spot at the DH, obviously I'd say go for it. Like I said, it's not like you're relying on him to play a defensive position. So yeah, I would say go for it. I mean, I would not be surprised. I know he's in Double-A. I would not be surprised if he makes a ginormous, jump to Triple-A and spends little time in Triple-A. I would not be surprised. I know the Mets have a lot of questions with their prospects and their younglings like Alvarez, Beatty, Vientos. I know they have a lot of questions with, are they going to be on the roster? Where are they going to start off? Triple-A, opening day roster, ML, there's a lot of questions, and I'm definitely great option for a video. And, I think that's more going to be discussed coming spring training. That's what spring training is also for, not just for getting guys back into shape, but for maybe rookies or veterans or prospects to see, can they make a case to be on the opening day roster? Maybe there's a case where a guy like Mauricio, I think out of all of them, I think Mauricio has the least likely chance, just considering where he is in A ball and, his time in the minor leagues. I get it. Alvarez technically didn't really spend much time in AAA, nor did really Beatty. And obviously Vientos, same thing goes for him. But just considering, I mean, you saw those three guys last season instead of Mauricio. Yeah, maybe that can make a little bit more of a case. Obviously, they're all different positions. I mean, Alvarez is a catcher, Beatty's a third baseman. I guess that's the closest thing to Mauricio, but, they're kind of two different hitters. And then you have Vientos, who is really just solely a DH. I mean, maybe you could put some time at third and maybe first as a backup. But I agree with you, Jose. I think Mauricio is a very underrated guy who deserves a lot more credit. I hate to say he's trade bait, but I think if there was the move where, just hypothetical, someone was really good on the market and Mauricio was maybe one of the guys that you had to give up, and if it meant keeping a Beatty, Alvarez, and Vientos, maybe I would be willing to make that move. So yeah, I agree with you though. I think it's worth a shot giving some time to the DH role. Great. Yeah, we went over that. Mike Spy says, "What do you think of Beatty's role? What do you think Beatty's role will be with next year? Outfield trade, assuming we get Correa." Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I know when the Mets, and if they do sign Correa, that kind of meant, what are they going to do with Beatty at third base? Obviously you brought in Escobar in this 2-year deal. This is the last year on his contract, and then they were kind of hoping, you'd have the confidence in Brett Beatty to be your third baseman. And, obviously, you have Guillorme and, a couple other guys as, a backup for third base need be. But that was kind of the plan. And then the Mets kind of went away from that plan and obviously got Correa and put him at third. And if Correa is going to be this Met for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, however long it's going to be, years, what does that do with Beatty? And I think most realistically, like you said, outfield. I think putting him in left field would be the most realistic option. He's taken some reps in the outfield. Doesn't look horrible. I think he has the arm. He's a guy who does have a cannon of an arm. I think he's capable of tracking down a ball. He has pretty above average speed, just in my opinion. So, he's a guy who is, I guess, really honestly just capable of tracking down a ball and making the right plays, making the right throws, catches, will he start off as this elite outfielder? I don't know. He may be like Nimmo, where he may start off really inadequately and then build his way up. That could be. Keep in mind, Nimmo was a natural outfielder, where Beatty was, I guess, a natural infielder. So it's a bit of a jump, but I would really hate to trade Beatty just because there's nowhere to put him defensively. And like I said, I mean, now you have the DH, so that really does help you out a lot. Yeah. When it comes to Beatty at third base, I mean, he was pretty decent, nothing too crazy, but nothing horrible. So I would say most realistically, you would probably see him be put in the outfield, probably left field. Timothy says, will the Mets trade McNeil and Legosic Ramir? Well, they're not trading McNeil, so I'm going to have to say no. Philly Sports Talk Podcast. What's going on, bro? Marco, what's going on? Philly Sports Talk Podcast says, do you think this long-term contract with Correa would look bad for the Mets? Yeah, and I mean, I guess that comes to the question, is this long-term contract, would the Mets be willing to get, like I said, some special clause involved where if this becomes an issue down the line, they could reconstruct the contract? If that's the case, yeah, I mean, it looks kind of shitty to an extent, but I think you would much rather do that and have the Lowell Mets moment for a week than have to, suffer with his consequences. I mean, this is not going to be any sort of Jed Lowry or, shenanigans. I mean, that's a completely different situation. I don't even know why I would say his name, but closest thing I could think of. So, yeah, I mean, as of right now, I would say it's definitely a little bit of a sting. If the Correa deal does fall through, it's a sting. It definitely doesn't look the best for the New York Mets, but sometimes it's, a risk you got to take. And I think the Mets have said that they are willing to take those risks. I mean, that's I guess really what all baseball's about is, taking risks. I mean, look at now, and you see with all these large contracts, I was talking about it with a buddy the other day. He's a Padres fan, and we were discussing the Xander Bogaerts signing. It's a decade-long contract. And, I was saying, 15, 20 years ago, seeing contracts for 300, 400 million, 10, 11, 12 years was unheard of. Okay, yeah, maybe you had your A-Rod signing with the Rangers and Mariners, and okay. But, I mean, you're seeing it more recently. I mean, you saw in 2018, Machado and Harper got this mega deal. You saw 2 years ago, Lindor got this mega deal. I mean, now you're seeing it now with Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts. Swanson's deal was a little bit shorter, but still. You don't see those. It's mind-boggling. It was so unheard of a couple of years ago, or a decade or two ago, and now they seem so common. They really do. Obviously, Aaron Judge is the big one for this offseason. So, yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of teams obviously do, I guess they take the risks. Ruben says, I think Correa will be a Met. I think so. Hayden, will the Mets trade Luis Guillorme, Drew Smith, Schwartz, and Lugo to the Rockies for Trojo and Hughes? Well, unfortunately, Lugo is on the Padres. So maybe, I guess, fill in, another mid-relief pitcher or something like that. Probably not. I mean, being, these are more so, I guess, kind of bullpen arms, I don't really like to trade for bullpen arms. I mean, unless it's, Josh Hader of the world. Knowing me, just the issue with trading for relief pitchers and bullpen arms is just the inconsistencies. Bullpen arms and relief pitchers, they're streaky. You have to view them by year. They're, annual guys. I am not big on signing relievers to multi-year deals. Okay, yeah, say what you want about with Diaz, but just in general, I'm not big on that because they're just so streaky. And I would hate for them to trade away a guy like Guillorme or, a big contributor for a bullpen arm, I guess. So, saw with Edwin Diaz, his first 2 years, 2019 he was garbage. 2020 was whatever. Last year he was pretty decent. And then 2022 he was phenomenal. Well, technically his last year. But yeah, so it's the issue with relief pitchers is just they're so streaky. Alex says, so Hayden, can the Mets be better this season? Last season was disappointing, but at the same time, the Mets overachieved. Do you agree? I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily last year was disappointing. I mean, you've had, 4 months of greatness, and then you had, 2 weeks of kind of, upset, being upset, and, you weren't fond of it. But realistically, I mean, yes, the Mets did overachieve. They were a team that was only projected to win 95-something wins, and I mean, they got the second most in their franchise history with 102. So theoretically, yeah, they did overachieve big time. When I think it comes down to it, the projections are really not what they always seem to be. They always somehow, are better or worse or just mid. But at the end of the day, I think the Mets did overachieve big time last year. I mean, you had second best record in your franchise history. That's something you don't see very often. They had many records broken, whether that was Lindor's home runs as a shortstop, Alonso breaking the Mets' all-time RBI record in a single season. You had a lot of single-season records broken. I mean, whether it was Lindor, Diaz, Alonso. I mean, last year was just a phenomenal season for the Mets, and I get it. They, were not able to get the job done that pretty much second to last series against the Atlanta Braves. And obviously the wild card was a little bit of a disaster. For the most part, the season was a success. I mean, I get it. At the end of the day, would you rather win a couple battles or would you rather win the war? And I guess the war is, the World Series. And, that's kind of really, that's how all sports are. I mean, you're going to, and that just really goes to show you where it doesn't matter where you finish in the regular season. Look at the Phillies. They were the last wild card team last year. They would have not even made the playoffs because they were in the extra wild card spot. They would have not even made it. And they were in the World Series, and they were, 3 games away from winning the World Series? Or 2 games away, I think? It was game 6? So yeah, 2 games away from winning the World Series. And they were an 86, 87 win team. I mean, look at the 2006 Cardinals. They won they were an 80, 84, 85 win team. So it really goes to show you that it doesn't matter how, what happens in the regular season. It's just really what happens in the playoffs. So, But no, I agree with you. I think last season was definitely a success in my opinion. I think it shows that the Mets are on a good path to the future. I mean, obviously, you have a great core um, in Alonso, McNeil, Lindor, Nimmo, Marte, Canna, hopefully Correa, Escobar. And you're really going to hope that you have a great rotation. And I guess you hope that some of the guys who struggled last season, in guys like Eduardo Escobar, Daniel Vogelbach, you hope that they could really try and turn it around and not even perform at an elite level, but just half of better than what they did last season. So yeah, I guess overall to answer your question, I think they can do better. I mean, whether it's 103 wins instead of 102 wins, sure. But I agree too. At the same time, they did overachieve. So is it really that much of a loss? Is it that much of a disappointment? And that's the thing with all sports, any sport, any team. Lane says, how do you feel about the Mets getting the Correa deal done? Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it, but I guess just to answer your question, right now, I would say I feel 85% good that the Mets do have the odds of getting it done. At the end of the day, I don't really trust any beat reporter or they take it right out of their ass. Not to sound like that, but I really don't trust what any of them say. I've heard 10 different things. I've heard that the deal is completely, that the Mets and Correa and Boris are angry at each other, and the Mets are now wanting to walk away. And now that they're resuming talks, I know it's hard. You had the holidays, the New Year. They were on vacation, with their families. I get it. But it's very frustrating when a lot of this is very public. And years ago, and I mean, it was Derek Jeter was actually one guy who was not very fond of a lot of this being public. He wanted a lot of, and that's why you didn't hear a lot about Derek Jeter and his contract instructions. Like my friend was asking me the other day. Also, he's like, how come we never heard anything during Jeter's like free agency and contract? Just because he was so quiet, he was so secretive of it. Now it's very open. It's very public. You have all these guys publishing it on Twitter and Instagram, and that 20 years ago, business was personal. It was kept quiet. Not so much now. And I mean, I can care less. It's not affecting me. If anything, it helps me having all the information. But right now, we've been hearing a lot of things with the Correa thing, and I can't really make up my mind on if it's good, bad. But right now, I would say being realistic, I would say the Mets have a pretty good chance of getting things done if the Mets, Correa, and obviously Scott Boras put the work in and really just get the deal done. Timothy says, will the Mets trade Canna, Vogelbach, McGill, Snell, and Hader? No. Hayden, do you think the Mets will trade Ruff, Lee, Peterson, Dominguez, Atencio to the Mariners for Haggerty, Trammell, Montez? No. Timothy with the trade takes. Kobe says, what's the deal with Trevor Bauer? Do you think an MLB team will sign him? I wonder. He's an interesting guy who has an interesting history. Teams are going to be very cautious with him. No, absolutely. I agree with you. I think right now, and we'll be very careful in how I word this, I'm not the biggest Trevor Bauer guy. Put all of his legality aside, I was not really big on his personality. I think he's a decent player in terms of performance. I think personality in clubhouse is huge. We saw with the 2021 Mets that the clubhouse atmosphere, it's important. And I think Bauer being very, very blunt and immature, if that's the term you really want to use, is a lot. It's a risk. Whether that's getting taken out of a ball game and chucking the baseball to center field, or just being a clubhouse guy. Being, New York, that's important. And that's why I say Trevor Bauer would really benefit in a small market team, or not even a small market team, but just, a city, like a lower populated, smaller city. So obviously I don't think he'd fit well in New York. He won't, obviously LA he's done. Maybe he goes to like the Royals or the Cubs or, maybe somewhere like that. Yeah, obviously I don't think he'll go to the Yankees. I think the Yankees are I guess, a classy organization, and I don't really think they would want to deal with some of his stuff. I mean, Bauer would, if he, got, he would benefit from New York, with all of his, merch, and he's big into the media market, and his brand, his company, whatever it's called, I forgot the name of it. He would really benefit off of it. I mean, he would. Right now, where would he go? I think it's kind of tough to say what's the deal with Bauer. I don't necessarily think a lot of teams are going to have it. I think there's going to be teams that have interest in him, but I think there's not going to be a whole lot. I think, maybe you're talking 5 to 10 that reach out to him. I could also see him going to the KBO or the Nippon League for a year or two, just to kind of, let time pass and I guess just get back into his ability to perform. Obviously, he's a pitcher. He hasn't played in a year, a little bit over a year and a half. And obviously, if you're a position player, like I said, Michael Conforto, that's a different case. But he's going to need time to get his repertoire back. I get it. He's been practicing in Arizona, but that's playing in your garage with your friends is completely different than playing in a real life game. So see how things go. Timothy, another trade, says, Hayden, do you think the Mets... Oh, yeah, you asked me that. LFGM. Trey says the Mets will sign Carlos Correa officially by early next week. And the presentation will probably be Friday. I hope so. Seth, what's going on? Ryan says, nice hat. Appreciate you, bro. Connor says, keep Eduardo Escobar's DH with Vientos. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, if you get Correa and you put him at third, I don't know. I feel like you would have more of an incentive to trade away Escobar because you only have him for a year. And obviously that kind of solves the, Correa, where would he bat? Probably in between Alonso, I would say. I don't want to say Correa would take over like the full role of Escobar, being third base, probably batting fifth in the lineup, considering how stacked the Mets, lineup is. But right now, I would say that's probably the case you got with Carlos Correa. In the scenario you do keep Escobar, I would say that probably is the case. Maybe not necessarily Vientos full time, but you could have, probably 2-3 DHs in the back of your mind, but your main platoon would probably be Escobar and Vogelbach. Maybe you mix in Vientos in that mix. It's kind of hard because Vientos wouldn't really play a position necessarily, so it's like the only involvement he would get is from the DH position, and obviously you want him to get as much playing time, considering he's young, he's a prospect. You want to give him the availability. So that's, I guess, kind of the only kind of concern, I guess you could say. Lane says, do you think the Mets can get the Correa deal done with? Yeah. Which surprise prospect could find roles on the 2023 Mets? It would be pretty spooky if Mauricio develops into our version of Yordan Alvarez. Yep. It's funny. I did mention that. So, yeah, in terms of surprise prospects for the Mets, in terms of the farm system specifically, I actually am making a video about that, Trey. So definitely be on the lookout for two prospects that are going to, I guess, kind of take a big step for the Mets farm system. So guys that are in the Mets farm system for the next couple of years, that are two guys that are really going to, shock the Mets farm system and, kind of move up in the ranks of the pipeline rankings. But in terms of, I guess like the big three of like an Alvarez, Beatty, Vientos, Mauricio, I would like to say Mauricio. I think he's the most underrated prospect in the Mets farm system. I don't think he is talked about enough. I think he's a guy who has insane raw power. He's capable of going to the opposite way for insane raw power. Like I said, I guess defensively is the only question of what do you do with him. Obviously, he's a shortstop, and like I said, I have no issue with him learning to play the outfield. I think that would be great for him. I think he would benefit big time from playing with the outfield, and with his speed, with his ability to locate a ball, I think he's more than capable of playing the outfield. Just for saying that. So yeah, I would say those are probably a couple, probably Mauricio, or I think Alvarez. But that's kind of, Francisco Alvarez, but that's kind of pretty obvious. Lane says, do you think the Mets will sign Andrew Chafin and Brian Reynolds endeavors? I don't think they'll sign all. Well, I don't think they'll sign and trade for the both of them. I don't think the Mets are going to trade for Brian Reynolds. I think there's really no need for it. I mean, considering he's a center fielder, you have Nimmo for the next 8 years. There's really not much of a need for Brian Reynolds. Devers, same thing. If you get Correa, there's really no need. Or Devers, but Devers obviously locked up a huge contract with the Boston Red Sox. So I would say so the chances are pretty small, I would say. So yeah, obviously Andrew Chafin is, I guess, really the only guy that I would see on their lane. And Chafin is a guy that I would like the Mets to go after. He's a nice lefty guy. He's been pretty good the last couple years, obviously, with the Athletics, with the Cubs, with the Tigers. He had a really good season. So, this 2-year deal, Ottavino's, style contract, 2 years, 10, 15, 20 million, I think is fair. Like I said, I don't like to invest in relievers just because how streaky they are, but just considering with, I guess, the consistency for Chafin, he's a lefty. I really want the Mets to really stack their bullpen with left-handed pitchers. It's something that they're going to need. I would absolutely love them to go after a guy like Andrew Chafin would be nice. Purdy's a funny guy too, so be a good clubhouse guy. Replace the role of like Trevor May or someone. Haley, what's going on? He says the Mets need to sign Chafin as they do need a second lefty reliever. Yep. I love the idea of Adam Duvall as he could hit bombs and play all 3 outfield positions. Plus, he plays well. Yeah, Duvall is also another guy. I think he could be this like underrated spark style player for the New York Mets. Like I said, the Mets outfield definitely has a shortage. I mean, you have Canna at left, you have Nimmo at center, and then you have Marte at right. Keep in mind, I want to say Canna's contract is done after this year. Canna's on his last year. You have Marte for 3 more years. You have Nimmo for a long time. No need to worry about him. And then obviously your 4th outfielder. Yeah, so obviously you have Canna, you have Nimmo, and you have Marte. Your 4th outfielder is McNeil. Obviously, I like McNeil at second. Stop fucking with McNeil at second base. It drives me nuts. When people are like, he's a utility guy. He is. He's capable, but just leave him at second base. He does much better on the right side of the field. But not getting onto that rant is I would like them to explore a backup 4th outfielder, whether that's a Profar, whether that's an Adam Duvall. AJ Pollock could have been a decent guy, not the best, but obviously Tim LaCastro is not your 4th outfield guy, just for the record. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they go out for this 4th outfield guy. Like I said, that's why I'm a big proponent on making Mauricio into an outfielder. And the Mets have a lot of infielders at the MLB level, prospect level, but not at the for the outfield. Yeah, Duvall could be a nice little guy. He could hit you some bombs. Versatile in the outfield. Steven, he says, what do you think of us signing Luke Voit and Trey Mancini? Luke Voit signed already? I thought I heard him sign with someone, or maybe that was just me. I know Pollock is with the Mariners. I know that, but okay, maybe Luke Voit didn't sign then. I don't know. Maybe I was thinking of someone else. Yeah, Luke Voit is interesting. I mean, the fact is that he was, everyone was praising this dude just a couple of years ago. It was 2020, and hasn't really panned out since. He's a good power guy. I feel like he would kind of fall into a lot of hate with Mets fans. I feel he would be this huge guy to just swing for the fences every time, have a huge strikeout number, and Mets fans would easily be booing him coming May. No, but being realistically, I do worry with him, I guess, in a Mets lineup, just with the consistency of the Mets lineup is they have a lot of contact and table setter-oriented players, and then you have a limited amount of power hitters. Mets power is something that needs to be talked about, obviously. Get it, you have Pete Alonso. Okay, he's capable of giving you 40, maybe 50. You have Lindor, capable of giving you 25. If you get Correa, same thing. Escobar, hopefully he could have a big bounce back season, give you 25 as expected. Otherwise, like guys like McNeil, Nimmo, they'll give you 10, maybe if even. Maybe McNeil will give you like 9 or 8. So yeah, you're gonna want some power guys. Trey Mancini, a DH candidate, isn't horrible. You 1-2-year deal. Same thing goes for Luke Voit. I would definitely probably take them over Daniel Vogelbach right now. I will say that. But one thing that I really would like from the DH position is, I guess, a mix of power and on-base percentage. Last year, you saw a lot of it with Vogelbach was he didn't really hit for a whole lot of power. But in the beginning, when he was doing well, he was getting on base a lot. He was walking a lot, getting a lot of base hits, light contact. He was just getting on. That's good. But I would more like that from a leadoff guy. I get it, pass the baton. Cool. I would like that more from the leadoff player. So yeah, that's why I got a little weird with Vogelbach. TD, what's going on? Blake, what's going on, man? Lance, how do you feel about the Yankees? Yeah, I mean, I would say the Yankees have had a pretty good offseason. I mean, obviously, you brought back Aaron Judge, Anthony Rizzo. I think a big part of their success, bringing in Carlos Rodon. I mean, I think they could benefit from a couple bullpen arms. Who knows? Maybe they go after a guy like Trevor Bauer, or they make a little nice little trade that could maybe put some surprise to people. Who knows? So yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to see how things go with the Yankees. I think they're in a very tough division. Obviously, the Blue Jays are definitely on the rise. They're a team that's capable of winning 95 games. The Rays are just always going to be good. I mean, that Moneyball mentality. So they're always a contender. Obviously, the Baltimore Orioles are on the rise. I mean, they're a team that, in my opinion, is going to have a really underrated season and going to sneak into that last wild card spot. You got the Red Sox, who are, I mean, as of right now, no offense to the Red Sox fans in here, but I would say looking like that fifth-place team similar to last year. So, yeah, we're going to have to see. Correa is just stressing that he opted out in the first place. He's like damn, who wants me? The Mets need to sign Carlos Correa. It's the cherry on top of the offseason and gives them help, especially when it comes to the DH spot. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I know Correa's not playing the DH spot, but that's a good point Colby brings up, is that bringing in Correa, it helps the team down the line, because that means you get to put Escobar at DH and have an elite third baseman offensively and defensively, and then it structures other positions at the same time. Bauer was this is about Trevor Bauer. He was a Central Division guy at heart 4 years before the Dodgers. Yeah, I mean, with the Guardians, Indians, the Reds. I feel like he played with another team. Maybe that was just me. Guardians or Indians, Reds. I feel like there was another team, but maybe not. Baseball's Mayor says, once Francisco Alvarez is called up, who is the Mets' number one prospect? According to Pipeline, it would be Brett Beatty, but he'll probably be called up also. So probably Kevin Parada, I would say. Yeah, Kevin Parada. Do you think the Mets are going to sign Matt Moore? Let's take a look-see at Mr. Matt. I haven't heard that name in quite some time. Matt Moore. Did he play with the Rangers? Yeah, he played with the Rangers. 2007 draft. He's definitely jumped around. Tampa Bay, from San Francisco, Texas, Detroit, Philly, back to Texas. Decent season last year. He's a reliever, I want to say. Lefty, yeah. Yeah, he could be a potential option to explore. I have to do some more research on Matt Moore. He's kind of one of the few guys. Obviously I witnessed him, when the Mets were playing against the Phillies against him, but one of the few guys who is pretty underrated. He had a pretty underrated season as a reliever. Yeah, we said before, if I'm the Angels, I'm calling him up. 720,000 momentum could blow up with the Angels too, though. Okay, momentum. Yeah, that's what his business is called. Yeah, I mean, it would blow up anywhere in California and anywhere in New York. Maybe Texas too, Florida. Trey, did you see the Mets are making a jumbo board? I did see that. Yeah, Whopper. Haley says thoughts on Tim LeCastro minor league signing. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a decent deal. I mean, it's not like I'm going to be running around saying, oh my God, this is oh my God. Small minor league deal. Like I said, he's not your fourth outfielder. He's going to be a pitch runner. I mean, you're going to rely on him for speed. I read 19, 20, and 2021, 100th percentile in sprint speed. Last year, he was in the 99th percentile in sprint speed. So he's going to be a guy that you're really just going to rely on for, I guess, being a pitch runner, kind of like a Billy Hamilton role or Terrence Gore role, where, if you're in the 8th inning and it's a 1-run game or tie game or down by a run or something, and he's on first or second, pitch runner type guy. Yeah, Travis Jankowski, exactly. You put him out there, maybe 9th inning defensive guy, depending on what the score is. There's an injury, whatever. Yeah, like I said, he's really not known for his bat. He gets hit a lot by pitches, so maybe that's why he's a Met. But yeah, it's not like he's known for being this big offensive contributor. It's a minor league signing for a reason. Yeah, we'll see how things go there. Should the Mets stay internal at DH? Yeah, I prefer them not to. I think when it comes down to it, I prefer if the Mets did not take the internal approach. I get it. You have a lot of internal guys like Vogelbach, like Escobar, like Vientos. But when it comes to it, you're really going to need it. You're going to need to hit a big bat. I will rephrase what I said. If you bring in Correa and he goes to third base, then yes, you do stay internal because Correa, you bring in Correa and that kind of solves a lot of other things down the line. So depends how you want to look at it. If the Correa deal gets done, you put him at third base, then yeah, you technically do stay internal because then you put Escobar there. If not, then yeah, you're gonna have to look at another decent bat. Because I'll tell you, yeah, I'm not riding a DH of Vogelbach and Vientos platoon or Vogelbach and Ruff platoon. No, you can't do that. Adam Duvall, yes sir. Can the Mets sign Trevor Bauer for a 5-year $1 million contract? I'll tell you, he'll probably get him. I think Bauer to an extent can get a decently large deal. I guess it's just really where it depends on where he signs. AJ Pollock to the Mariners. Yes, that was a good move for them. Will Francisco Alvarez be on the opening day roster, you think? Yeah, Kobe. I mean, I think that's going to be more coming down to spring training. I think that's going to be a question that is discussed is, will Francisco Alvarez be on the opening day roster? Possibly. I think there's a chance that we do see him start off in AAA or there's a season where he does start off on the roster and then he gets sent down to AAA. I guess it really depends. I mean, right now, the Mets got rid of McCann, but you brought in Omar Narvaez. So are they going to be rocking this Omar Narvaez and Tomas Nido platoon? Are you going to go with a 3-man? Obviously, you don't have Patrick Mazeika anymore, on the taxi squad. So you're probably gonna want an alternate third backup catcher because you always need that. So Alvarez would be that guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if they set him down to AAA, but they keep him really, really close. But then I also wouldn't be surprised if he does make the roster and they just say, we have, I think it's 28 guys on the roster for like the first month. Maybe they keep him up and then they send him down when that man gets, when that number gets shorter to 26. Or maybe it's the other way around. So, yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see how the Mets address that. I mean, coming spring training, we're gonna see how much he's improved defensively behind the plate, offensively, also with his power, with his swing, strike zone. That's something that's going to be observed. And I'll tell you, when spring training comes, that number one topic of question is going to be Francisco Alvarez. I bet that's what everyone is going to be talking about. Can the Mets sign Trey Mancini? Yeah, they can. Realistically, I don't really see Mancini as a Met. I'm just going to try and rush through a couple of these comments, guys. Trey says outfield free agents that could spark in the roster of Cohen and Epler. Can reel any one of them in. It includes Duvall, run over him. Robbie Grossman, yeah, he's also a decent guy. Tim LaCastro, we got him. And then Dickerson, yeah. Right now, you got LaCastro. Robbie Grossman, yeah, decent guy. Like I said, struggled last year in Detroit. Couldn't really hit in Comerica, as I don't really think many guys are. But yeah, like I said, you don't really need this elite caliber player, just a spark. What's left for the Mets to do in free agency? I'd say bullpen, maybe another left-handed pitcher. Yep, pretty much. Len says, how do you feel about Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos, Francisco Alvarez, Ronnie Mauricio, and Alex Ramirez, Matt Allen, Calvin Ziegler, and Kevin Parada? Actually, Lane, I do have a video coming up. I don't want to spoil anything, but keep a little eye out for a little prospect video. Maybe today, Monday, maybe later this week, maybe on the weekend. Keep an eye out for that. Because I kind of talk about all those guys, and I don't really want to say too much on here. So all I'm going to say, Lane, is keep an eye out. Turn those post notifications on. Yeah, Parada does have an interesting high school and college story. He does. Ryan says, happy my Red Sox. Ryan says, happy my Red Sox re-signed Devers long-term. Yeah, no, that was a good move for you guys. Do the Mets have Kevin Parada in spring training for the Mets? He'll be an A-ball, so maybe he'll get an invite, but I don't really think he'll be a big contribution. Which team had the most underrated offseason? We said it before, but I'll repeat it again. Probably the Giants or maybe the Diamondbacks. He's excited to make free agency vlogs again. For us, it'll be Vaughn Grisham. Yes, of course. All right, everyone. Yeah, sorry I had to kind of rush through those comments really quickly. We did just hit the hour mark. It is 4 o'clock, and I got to go to class in a little bit. Fun. Yay, me. So I just wanted to come on here and yeah, kind of just do a little live stream. I like, during the off season, I don't do a whole lot of live streams in the off season. I like to do a lot more video based things, but I figured why not come in here, show my face. Had a little time today before everything gets busy. So yeah, I definitely really do appreciate everyone for tuning in to today's stream. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. We had a very good stream, obviously talking about free agency for the New York Mets, free agency for MLB, going over a little bit of the New York Mets farm system report. That's always fun to talk about. What else did we talk about? I guess MLB news with Carlos Correa, Trevor Bauer, all of that great stuff. So yeah, obviously keep an eye out on that. It's going to be super, super fun. And yeah, like I said, if you are rewatching this on replay, thank you for staying for the hour and just about 5-minute mark. Tip of the cap to you. I salute you. Obviously, give this video a like, comment, subscribe, turn on those post notifications, tell your friends about this channel, all of that great stuff. I do have a ton of videos that have came out the last couple weeks, some more videos coming out ahead. So keep put on your post notifications so you can be up to date with those. So yeah, otherwise, I appreciate everyone for tuning into today's video. LFGM, let's go Mets. We got a great couple of things to talk about on the channel ahead. So yeah, otherwise, appreciate it. Till next time, baseball fans, see ya.